Hello, my name is Taylor Coyne, joining you from LA.
And my name is James Cook, coming to you from Indiana. We both research retail and real estate for JLL.
And this is everything we know about retail.
That's right, Taylor. This is the show where we tell all of you 3 things that we know about retail.
Just 3, no more, no less. That's it. That's all you get.
I wanted to tell 4 once, and Taylor shot me down like that.
It's not allowed. That's just like not part of our description. But, you know, anyway, James, for the first thing that we know about retail, what are you going to tell us this week?
Oh my gosh, Taylor. Well, here is the first thing that I know about retail. It's a person. It's not a thing. I know that I've got Chief Economist Ryan Severino here. And Ryan, we're going to jump into the triple view right there. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, hardest working team in retail. How are you doing today?
We're doing well. It's good to see you. I love that you've got your own lavalier mic that you have at home.
Yeah, it helps down here in the top secret economics bunker to have this. So.
Oh, right. Are you like the Mormons where you've got like 7 years worth of food in the economics bunker?
It's more than I think is legally permitted in some states. I'll just say that.
So for all of our viewers out there, Ryan is our chief economist at JLL. A few weeks ago, he joined us to talk about his 2021 predictions. He's back for an update. Ryan, I got a lot of questions for you. You ready to go?
I am ready. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Well, you were here last. You predicted record sales growth for retail. Were you correct?
So far, it looks like it. And that is a pretty remarkable thing to say since we really only have data for 3 months of the year since we are still in April. Unless something really unusual happens over the balance of the year, it certainly looks like on a nominal basis that 2021 is going to set a calendar year record for nominal retail sales growth rate. And I think that is a really excellent place to be, given where we've been over the last 12 or 13 months.
And when you say nominal sales, what does that mean?
It means I'm really just not taking into account the effects of inflation. And you know, some people might quibble about that and say, well, is that a reflection of how much the economy's growing? In a sense, we measure the economy in real terms net of inflation because we want to know if we're actually producing more things. But on a retail basis, what we're really concerned about is are people actually going out and are they spending money? And the good news is people are actually going out and spending money, I think to a far greater degree than the average person perceives. In fact, actually, if you recall from the last time we did this fun trivia challenge, Taylor and I did, I wanted to know if both of you would be willing to participate in a very quick multiple choice trivia challenge with me.
I just go BBB down the line on multiple choice tests.
We never say no to game shows and quizzes, just FYI. So it's always...
wait a minute. Taylor, does that mean we're about to have a
retail challenge?
In reverse. All right, hit us with your best shot.
Okay, 2 questions related to each other. The first question is, during 2017 and 2019, which are pretty normal years for retail sales, I'm going to give you ranges that nominal retail sales actually fell into during those years. So choice A is that nominal retail sales grew between 0 and 20 billion. B is that they grew between 20 and 40 billion. And C is that they grew between 40 and 60 billion. So how well do you think retail sales grew during 17 and 19? The answers are pretty close to each other, so I feel safe grouping them together.
So you're saying annual growth here?
During those calendar years, on a nominal basis, by how many dollars did retail sales grow between the beginning of the year and the end of the year in 17 and 19? And I put them into the answers into ranges because those 2 calendar years were pretty close to each other.
All right, I'm going to guess between 20 and 40 billion.
I
Taylor,
was
what do you
also going to
think?
say that feels like a real safe, pick B the whole way down. That just seems like, all
Yeah.
right, yeah, okay. I don't think it's C for what it's worth. I'm just going to put that out there, but my vote is still B.
All right, for fun, I'm going to switch it to C. So I'm going to say 40 to 60, just
Ooh.
so we can have a
Wow.
winner
Going
here.
big or going home there. I
Right.
like that. So the answer is B. In 17, it grew by about 25 billion during the year. And then in 19, it grew by about 29 billion. I just wanted to ask you that because I wanted to set a bit of a baseline, of a bit of a benchmark. Now I want to ask, during January, and just March of this year, using those same cohorts, where do you think retail sales fell? Because I will tell you, during both of those months alone, retail sales fell into one of those three categories, A, B, or C.
C.
Yeah, 40 to 60. Let's shoot the moon here.
Yeah, it's C.
That's insane.
In January, in January alone, grew by 41 billion. And in March alone, grew by 55 billion. Just in either of those individual months, retail sales grew by a greater amount than, on a nominal basis, what we saw in 2017 and 2019. And some people have challenged this a little bit. They said, yeah, well, last year was a weird year and this year is a weird year. If I took the end of 2019 level, because 2019 was still a fairly normal year, and I simply grew that by the growth rate of 2019, which probably wouldn't have happened because retail sales were slowing down a little bit anyway, just to try to come up with a better benchmark for 2020. 2021 is almost still certainly going to set a record. And again, unless something really unusual happens during the balance of this year, retail sales are off and running. And initially, I think January and March have a lot to do with fiscal stimulus. The balance of the year is going to have a lot to do with opening up the economy and people going out and unleashing a lot of that pent-up demand that I've been talking about for the last year or so.
I keep thinking this time last year, if you had come on, Ryan, and we're like, so a year from now, this is what I'm going to be talking about, and this is what's going to be happening with retail sales. I was like, sure. That sounds really great, but I'm not really that seems really ambitious. Things seem really dark right now. But again, I feel like, last year you talk about all of these other downturns and recessions, et cetera, but this is so unique, right? We've all had such a hard year inside. That, again, I keep thinking of, again, a year ago would have laughed, at all of these predictions.
Especially when you think about a year ago, there were some, I thankfully, as somebody who's very public in my prognostications, I can go back and point to things that I've said. I can't say I was feeling positive about what 2020 was going to look like, but there were some really dire prognostications about what was going to happen in the economy and consequently in the real estate markets. And thankfully, those did not come to fruition. I think if I had to characterize the last year, I would generally say that both the economy and the real estate markets have outperformed expectations. And I think that very well could be the case in 21. I don't think a lot of people were thinking that we were going to get such enormous levels of retail spending this year, and that it was not just going to be good for the overall economy, but certainly good, I think, for the retail real estate market.
Ryan, are a lot of people getting back to work too, or jobs recovering?
The good news is, yes, we still have a ways to go on that, but we have gained back more than, I'll say the majority, more than half of the jobs that were lost at the worst of the downturn last year. We're still net short about 8.5 million jobs, and that requires more opening up in the economy. But I think we are clearly at the point where we are shifting into a higher gear on that. After the initial spurt of opening up the economy last year, we went into a bit of a stalling phase around fourth quarter of last year when the pandemic started to worsen and fiscal stimulus started to fade. Now I think you're seeing not just the benefits of fiscal stimulus in the first quarter, but vaccination has clearly gone in the right direction. You're starting to see more states gradually, if not wholesale, relax restrictions again. People are feeling, I know we talked about this a little bit the last time, people who are vaccinated are feeling more comfortable going out and doing things, getting on airplanes and staying at hotels and going to bars and restaurants. And we are maybe 2-3 months away from the point where even if we don't hit all of the benchmarks that epidemiologists would like us to hit, we will pretty quickly find ourselves going from a deficit of vaccines relative to supply, relative to demand, to having a surplus. And we will probably start, as a goodwill gesture, exporting some of them to the rest of the world to help them with their vaccination efforts. I really feel like the next quarter is that quarter where not flipping a switch, but we make a very serious transition to much stronger economic growth over the balance of the year, even though I think first quarter is going to look incredibly strong as well.
That's great. Ryan, it's late April and we had 2 inches of snow here yesterday. So I think anything's possible at this point.
And it's funny you say that, because even just warming up helps. February, if you recall, retail sales actually contracted in the United States. And it was partially because we had such inclement winter weather across a huge swath of the country that people were, especially in the South, where people could be outdoors a little bit, dining, shopping, things like that. The weather, I think some people, probably, I think they know in the back of their minds that weather matters, but it's partially a function of, as I've grown fond of saying, vaccines prevent fever in people, but induce fever in the economy. It's also the weather actually getting warmer too at the same time. And so I really think it's this very potent combination of vaccination plus warmer weather is really putting us on the precipice of I think, this torrent of demand that is going to flood into all categories of retail over the next few quarters or so, at least.
So Ryan, I got one more question for you. I know you have to go soon. Let's talk about urban retail stimulus. Have you been back to the office? You're based in Jersey, but I know you work out of the Manhattan office sometime. Any thoughts on getting back into the office? Does that happen this summer or does that happen in the fall?
I think it's a summer into fall phenomenon, and I don't think it's going to be, again, to use an analogy like someone flipping a switch. I think you will start to see people gradually testing the waters a little bit, feeling more comfortable. And then I think even from an organizational point of view, I think a lot of organizations are targeting post-summer holidays for people to come back in larger numbers. But I think that is good news for retail. I think it's probably a discussion for another time, but I think people are selling cities short at this point. I think they are, and consequently, I think they're selling urban retail short at this point, because people do not move to places like New York and San Francisco to work from home and their 300 square foot apartments. They explicitly move to cities like that to get out and about, so they can go into the office, so they can go out to lunch, so they can go to dinners and happy hours and coffee shops and things like that. I think the story's been a bit too negative about cities in general, and especially I think about offices and retail. I feel cautiously optimistic about the outlook over the next, maybe not explicitly over the next couple of quarters as people transition back, but the idea that this is the death knell for urban areas and urban retail feels completely overbought to me, pun intended.
Agreed.
Here.
It's coming back, baby. All right, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been awesome. We'll let you go for now, but we'll have you back again soon, I'm sure.
Anytime. Always my pleasure. Take care. Stay safe. I will talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Ryan. Again, I'm loving all this good news. It just let's keep it rolling. I love it. It just makes me feel all giddy inside. I feel like a kid and it's about to be Christmas or something. So James, what else do you know about retail?
Well, Taylor, it's time to get into the second thing that we know about retail. I've been thinking a lot about autonomous vehicles lately. So for a few years now, we've been seeing more and more of these experiments with autonomous delivery. If you've been paying attention to the news, there was they did some Chipotle burrito test deliveries via drone, and Kroger's done some autonomous vehicle deliveries, and you see some others in the news. But we've had some new pilot announcements that I think are worth talking about. So the first one comes from Domino's, and this is in Houston, where Domino's is partnering with Nuro to deliver pizzas. So Neuro is the same group that partnered with Kroger to do test deliveries in Arizona.
I was just about to say,
yeah.
Neuro is like something that I feel like we've been hearing about for years now. They seem like, on top of all of their experimentation or brand experimentation.
I would say they're leaders in this autonomous delivery, driverless delivery game. They were started by Google alums. They've got over $1 billion in VC funding. Chipotle is actually one of the investors in Neuro. So clearly they're going to be doing more with that in the future. So if you are in Houston and you order from the Domino's in Woodland Heights, you may have the option of having it delivered by Neuro. So you make a Domino's order, they give you text alerts on the status of the order as it's coming to you. You can track the Neuro via a GPS on like the Domino's webpage. You can see it doesn't go that fast. They only go about 25 to 35 miles an hour.
It's really cute. That's also really what I'm noticing. I'm like, one, just seems like such an appropriate speed down these residential streets, but also like, oh my goodness, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and they're not designed for people to be in them, so you can do a lot of stuff. So they send you this PIN number. They text you when Neuro's out front of your house. You go in, you type the PIN number on Neuro, and its little gates open up, and there you go. Because there's not a car, you could conceivably put a heating unit in there. You could put a cooling unit. You get a hot burgers out of one chest and a cold soda out of the other. A lot of opportunity, I think, to get creative with the Neuro delivery system. It's pretty cool. But did I mention speeds? 25 to 35 miles an hour. So it doesn't look like it would make sense. First off, not in the rural areas because, distances are too far. Not even in like the exurbs. So it's really got to be those more dense suburbs, but not too dense because think about like in Manhattan, all the traffic and stuff like that.
Oh no, it'd be a disaster. Also, I would just imagine that this cute little car would just get, pummeled.
Yeah, it would get destroyed.
Yeah.
You mean by the other humans who'd mess with it?
Both traffic. I can just see, angry bikers just being like, "Get out of my way!" And like, I'm pro the bikers. But, I can just see this is the last thing we need on our roads now to share with, autonomous vehicles. But again, in a place like this, and I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. So Neuro's done pilots with Kroger, we talked about, also Walmart and CVS. They're approved to make deliveries for fees in parts of California and Arizona and in Texas. It's coming to a theater near you, to a neighborhood near you soon. So what do you think? Would you be up for that? I would do that in a second, right?
I would totally do it. I feel like that doesn't impact me one way or the other. Would I be excited the first time and be like really into it? Yes. And then if it worked out, sure. I'm kind of neutral. It's funny. The last two places I've lived though are often difficult to find. And they're not different. It's not that it's like confusing, but it's a small street off of a busy street and people often miss it. So I wonder if an autonomous vehicle would do better with finding that, pinpoint, like, no, I am here. Or, how much that's human error versus just because it's not like everyone doesn't also have Google Maps up or, no offense, Apple Maps, trying to find their location or trying to find where I am. But I'd be curious if autonomous vehicles would do it better.
Well, actually, you know what? This next one, the other recent announcement we had is not only in your area, but it's also much cuter. So this is Kiwi
Even
Bot.
Cuter?
Yes, look at that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's cute.
So Kiwi Bot, they're deploying them in Santa Monica, which isn't too far from where you live in Los Angeles. They've done a bunch of test deliveries with Chick-fil-A. So they just launched their Kiwi Bot 4.0, which is the promo video that we're watching now. So this little guy has a little digital face on it. I don't know if they show it in the video, but it can like wink at you,
as a robot should.
And it makes sense because like street urchins are less likely to mess with it if it's like happy and it's like, hey buddy,
Yeah,
if
if it
it's a
reminds you of,
Disneyfied
I was just about to
character.
say, if it reminds you of Wally, then you're not going to touch
Right.
it because Wally.
Yeah, who's gonna mess with Wally?
I'd come after you if you tried to mess with Wally.
So KiwiBot, at least in their marketing materials, is saying, we're selling this as a service to restaurants. You can sign up for this service now if you're based in Santa Monica. They're charging the restaurants $1.99 per delivery, which is fantastic compared to like the delivery apps, which will charge restaurants 20 to 30% of the entire order. So that's like a lot cheaper to do it. And the next step for them is they're going to be partnering with Shopify. So Shopify is a tool where if you sell things online, you use this tool called Shopify, which is basically automates all of your online selling system. So if you're an online retailer using Shopify and Neuro is in the delivery area, KiwiBot is in the delivery area, you might be able to opt to use delivery. So they're doing it in LA, San Jose, Miami, Pittsburgh, and Detroit. So do some online ordering, Taylor, starting in May, and you might be able to get some deliveries via the little robot guy.
I've got to ask though. So especially one in Santa Monica, and we also saw KiwiBot, going down the beach, the pathway, Strand, that's a unique area. I would imagine KiwiBot is even more of a localized delivery zone. Do they talk about that at all? That it's like, yeah, we only really do this 5 to 6 block radius. So we do need a lot of density like you do have in downtown Santa Monica.
Yeah, I didn't get an exact number, but yes, it is. But here's the thing about KiwiBot. It is better built for urban delivery because that little guy can go right down on the sidewalk.
Yeah, you can really zoom around.
Swerving in and out. But you're absolutely right. For the suburbs, for the farther out suburbs, it really doesn't make sense. It's really, you're ordering from your local, bodega in New York or something.
Right. I mean, if it came to my area, I would absolutely, again, I would test both of these things. I would say I'd probably, no offense to the other cute Neuro one, I'd be more excited to get my own personal Wally coming to the door so I could, interact with it and also get my food or whatever I ordered. So a little bit, I'll go out of my way to test KiwiBot. Once they start rolling out, I'll try to find an area that I can go to and see if they'll deliver to me. I'm just on this corner. I don't live here, but please deliver things to me right here. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Well, you're much more likely to test these out before me because I live way out in the boondocks. So you're gonna have to be the primary tester. Yeah. I mean, my take is autonomous vehicle delivery, drone delivery. It's coming. Like there's no stopping it. It's a cheaper and easier way to do a lot of this kinds of delivery. I think the question really is, how quickly until it gets here? There's like a lot of regulatory and logistic hurdles. They're saying I've seen 5 to 10 years. I'd be thinking more than 10 years for this to really roll out and get the kinks worked out. Yeah. But we'll see. I could be wrong.
I'll be curious to see what happens with drone delivery. I feel like that's the one in my mind that has like the biggest question mark. And for some reason too, just like a little, for some, and again, we associate drones with a lot of other things, but like privacy, there's just something a little weird about, just seeing a drone come out from the sky and just be delivering everywhere. Again, but maybe that's more of the rural solution to things. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'll never, this probably won't be true, right? But in more urban areas, maybe I see less drones and I see more KiwiBots. Maybe you see more drones and you'll never see a KiwiBot. So
I think so. I think where I live, some of my neighbors would probably try to shoot a drone out of the sky just for sport. So, KiwiBot's got the urban street urchins, but out in my neck of the woods, we've got the gun folk.
Yeah. So, challenges wherever you are, and it will be an interesting time. And again, all of this stuff, I feel like no matter where you're going, we're going to get some really angry people. This is technology that's just going to like rub a lot of people the wrong way. So no matter what, I agree it's coming, but we're also going to get a lot of fights and a lot of angry people. So.
All right. But just to end on a positive note, I mean, I think that overall this is a thing that people are going to accept as a part of life, not too far in the future.
And to your point, especially after COVID, we've all been talking about how much some of these third-party delivery services are taking away from restaurants who are already struggling. So I feel like that's this transparency, this cost aspect is a huge part of something that's on our mind when we're trying to deliver and choosing where to eat. So, if that's reducing costs for the restaurant too, assuming that these behaviors stick, I think that's important to people.
Agreed. All right, Taylor, what else do you know about retail?
So glad you asked. All right. In similar vein, so here's the third thing that we know about retail. And James, let me tell you, it's also a new store opens. It's a double whammy.
Oh, my favorite segment. I love a good new store opens.
So, James, we're going local.
Okay.
We're going to Denver. So,
okay. Awesome.
Choice Market.
Okay.
Let me just play this. So this is going to go on in the background. So this is Choice Market started, it's a convenience store, but it has a huge grocery focus. There's a huge emphasis on prepared foods also. It's a small store. It's just in the Denver area. I think they have about 5 stores right now in the Denver area. And they just debuted their new store and it has no traditional checkout. It is completely contactless. Does that sound familiar to you?
I've seen that concept by a few other operators. Yes.
Yes. So by no means is this technically a new concept, but I think it's pretty cool to be seeing it in a retailer that's not someone that we have never necessarily heard of. I highly doubt many people have heard of Choice Market unless you are in the Denver area and you're going to one of these. But so they just debuted this store. It's 5,000 square feet. It's on the ground floor of a high-rise apartment building. You can, as some of these customers will choose, you go in, you scan your app. So, similar to the Amazon Fresh and the Amazon Go, right? Mm-hmm. That you have to have the app to still participate in this program. But you go and scan a code. You go, you shop around. All of these cameras are watching you, not to be creepy or anything, but they are watching you.
Well, look at that. I'm watching you, lady.
And then you just go and pick your items. And similar to this technology we've been reading about, they're basically, pulling up a tab for you. And you can choose to be 100% contact free, or you can choose self-checkout, or you can check out with an employee, which I think is different and a little unique, that you can have all of these options, because I think that's forcing, you can go in here. Oh, I don't have the app. I don't really want to deal with that. I just want to go and buy something. And they're not going to say, no, you can't come in here. So I actually think that that's a really nice feature of it. But so apparently the CEO, and I think I said 5 stores. I lied. They do have 4 stores right now, and they want to expand to 50 locations in 5 years. So that's no joke. Will all of them be like this? I think that that's kind of their goal. So they have 300 ceiling mounted cameras, just watching you shop around.
Wow.
And what I think is interesting about this Choice Market as well is that 50% of their sales come from prepared foods.
Wow. Interesting. So, Taylor, I am going to be fully vaccinated in another week, and I've already booked a flight to guess where? Denver.
Denver.
Gonna be staying, got a B&B, Airbnb downtown. So I think I might have to do a live on location visit to Choice Markets to check this out.
I think you absolutely should, because I think this isn't necessarily something new that we've heard of, but it's picking up. This is also not going anywhere. There's an added convenience to this. And I think the pandemic has really fueled this contactless, also our impatience, personally. I think so, right? Because you don't want to stand in line with other people anymore either. The longer you're standing in line waiting for something, the more you're terrified. So
I just hate it's just like at Target, Walmart, the grocery store where you have a lot of stuff in a cart. That's when checking out is the most onerous. Or when you're waiting in line at the gas station and the person in front of you wants to get a pack of cigarettes and they have to go to find a key to open it up. That's where I want the check.
I want to write a check. That happened to me the other day, where the lady in front of me wanted to write a check. And I stood there in line as she wrote a check. And it was, it wasn't it was like a convenience store where I like had no option. And I had to stand there while this woman was writing a check. And she's like, oh no, this is when I need a choice market.
Yeah. So clearly there's a demand. Can the cost of the technology come down to make it make economic sense? That is a question. And it will at some point. It's just it's a matter of when, I think, not if.
Yes, I agree. And it's not, the most practical thing in the beginning, but, again, it's all about the convenience, so I'm going to bring this back up. This is a survey from eMarketer. And so this was talking about basically, your change in your interest in all of these digital retail technologies. So all of this kind of, stuff that we talk about. But I think the biggest jumps that you'll see are up top. So mobile payments, there was a 17% interest in March of last year. So, fine. Jumped to 30% just like, a few months later. And this is June. I would wonder if this is even higher now.
Yeah.
Same with mobile app orders. Digital screens to navigate. I guess they didn't have any data from March, but again, in June, still 22%. I mean, I think this is the whole idea of just like not having necessarily to interact with people if you don't want to. Again, I think it's a lot of choice. Some of these other ones didn't really increase much, like the augmented reality, which I understand personally. Augmented reality, it seems a little bit more gimmicky to me in most cases. But, I just think, again, really focusing on these top ones is like, we're ready for mobile payments. We're ready for you to scan my phone and for me not to have to wait for the lady to write the check.
Yeah. And these like AR to try on product, like if you surveyed my parents or, most people, even like everybody in my family, if you said, do you want an AR to try on a product? First off, they'd say, what does AR mean? And then secondly, they'd be like, I'd rather just try it on.
Right. Which I think like why, there's a time and a place maybe where it can be helpful, but no, I think we're good. I think you still want to go and do all of those things. I think again, AR for gaming, virtual reality, augmented reality, it's going to stay in that gaming world, but maybe that's just me. But, I think this whole survey speaks to a lot of different things that we've been seeing, right? I know a few weeks ago, you talked about all the Starbucks stores, they're smaller and they're only mobile order pickup now. And apparently they converted a lot of their stores too, not to necessarily pick up only, but again, all of this like contactless payment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, have you heard about the Amazon One, Pay by Palm?
I have not.
So Amazon just debuted that in their Seattle store, one of the Whole Foods in Seattle, and it's called Amazon One, and you pay by your palm. It scans your palm. And that is how you pay. So you don't even need your phone. You forgot your phone? I'd love to know who's forgetting their phone these days, but that's besides the point. But you can pay by your palm. We can discuss at a later date whether or not we think that is unbelievably creepy or not. But
I know that, a bunch of retailers I've seen in mainland China have at least tested paying with your face, where so pay by the palm is sure.
Right.
I mean,
I'm blanking right now because I haven't traveled in so long. What's the other, it's pre-check and then you clear.
Yeah,
you scan your retina, right? You scan your eyeball.
Yeah. They use some kind of biometrics. I've never seen, this is a whole nother thing. I've never seen the benefits to clear over having TSA pre-check, which I'm perfectly happy with. But anyway, that's for our travel podcast that we're doing later today.
Right, exactly. No, later this year once we all start traveling again. But, again, I think we're going to see a lot more of this technology blooming. To your point, it's going to take a while. It's not like we're all going to see all these frictionless checkouts everywhere, but I think we're all going to see little bits and pieces of it. I think it'll happen piecemeal and you'll get one of those special stores where you don't need anything, but it'll take time. But again, I feel like this was a tech heavy episode. It's great. Lots of new exciting things happening.
Yeah, I love it. So if folks want to check out more in-depth interviews on the current and future state of retail, they can check out our podcast. It's called Where We Buy. Up next, we're doing an episode called Can I Convert My Retail Property to Industrial? Turns out it's really complicated. We're actually, if you're watching this now, we're going to be recording it live on YouTube at noon Eastern today. or you could watch the replay at everythingweknow.show, which is the website where this show's at. Or you can subscribe to Where We Buy on whatever podcast app that you use.
And then also hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss all of this really great content that comes out all the time. There's a bell icon someplace. It will let you know. It will notify you when a new show comes out. We'll be back next Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. And then you can find that at everythingweknow.show.
So let's say I live in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. What time would it be?
I am so sorry. Thank you so much for asking. All of the visitors, I truly apologize. That would be also 12 noon. You are in the same Eastern time zone. So
who would have thought it? Haiti's in the same time zone as me here in Indiana.
I know, right?
Taylor, what else do you know about retail?
James, I'll tell you all of it next week.